Before we start the video, I would like to thank EA for allowing me early access to this update. I hope you'll all enjoy it as much as I have. So, what shall we talk about first? Well, I've included 4 cars in this. Obviously, you've got the 3 new cars, but I've also included the 23 Toyota because it was the fastest, and I've synchronized or tried to synchronize the footage as best as I can. So first of all, while the cars are all line astern, let's talk about the handling characteristics. The Toyota is a much more stable car now in the 24 version. It was already the fastest car in 23, but now it's gained more stability, more traction, and it's the easiest car to drive by far. My times only went down by about half a second from the initial run. I chose the stage in Estonia because it's one of the stages that I know the best, and I wanted to get a comparison where I already know the stage and I'm not improving my times like on the new stages. So yeah, the Toyota, definitely the biggest surprise in that it felt basically like it was on rails. I really had to push the boundaries to put a foot wrong, essentially. And it has that perfect balance of understeer and oversteer. It's not really snappy anymore like the 23 version was. And if you look at the footage of the comparison of both of them, top left and bottom right, you can really see that the 23 Toyota is quite snappy in comparison. The biggest difference here is that you've got 6 kilometers per hour more in terms of top speed, apparently, according to the in-game data anyway. And it really does feel like you've got more aerodynamic at high speed. You'll see toward the end of the video the Toyota really picks up in terms of pace. For the Hyundai, I'd say the weakest car of the 3 in 2023 in the game. It's vastly improved, in my opinion, in the handling. However, it still retains the snappiness and the sort of unpredictable understeer of the past. However, the speed is quite improved on the straights, so you're no longer losing so much to the Toyota, although it is not as fast still. But in the slower corners, it's probably the best of the trio, would you believe? So they've done quite a bit of performance tweaks to it, and we'll see at the times at the end, but definitely an improvement on the 23 Hyundai, which I qualified as nearly undrivable, I think, multiple points. For the Ford, if I were to give a brief summary, it's gone from the most stable, predictable car to the most oversteery, go-happy car that I could ever describe. It is essentially my favorite car of the 3. It's chuck it into a corner like a rear-wheel drive car, pull the handbrake if necessary, and it will oversteer for you 99% of the time, and you can have a lot of fun. And you can see that in the video, especially in the slower corners, where the car is just very, very happy to put the tail out and use the boost to its fullest extent. Now, what does that mean? It means that it's a little bit more unpredictable to drive. However, it is also, like the Hyundai, faster. And what that means is that you can really have confidence in it now. It doesn't have as much understeer as it used to, and so you can chuck it into the corners, you can have a lot of fun with it, and it's a very confidence-giving car, if I had to describe it, especially versus the 23 cars, including the Toyota. The Ford really pushes you to try and use more advanced techniques. However, it does mean that it's one of the ones that requires a lot of confidence to effectively unlock the pace. So there's pros and cons to the cars in essence, but definitely I think the Ford and the Hyundai have taken a huge step forward. We'll have to wait for the times at the end of the video, but as you can see, they are very close, and indeed at this point the 23 Toyota was just a couple of frames ahead in terms of pace, but the Hyundai 24 is effectively on pace with it, and the Toyota 24 is on pace with the Ford maybe a second back at this point. And the Ford did struggle sometimes in the high speed sections, I'd say, because the oversteer led to it losing momentum a bit. For the same for the Hyundai as well, in that it sort of understeered off of the ideal line, and you either have to hit the brakes or pull the handbrake and get the car rotated. For the Toyota, this last sector here was the epitome of dominance. It gained back all of its time that if it was losing any to the other cars in these corners. You can see just visually how stable it is, even compared to the 23 model. 23 model bizarrely understeery through this section, it must be said. But indeed, the cars are very, very close, as you can see, getting to the end here. So it's a very representative stage with some low-speed corners, some high-speed corners, and flat-out straights to test every single aspect of the car, and some heavy braking zones. And you can see the times ever so close. So let's have a recap of those times. So naturally, I made a little leaderboard to compare the times, and I just want to say I did 3 runs each. The runs that you saw were the best of those 3 runs, and what can I say? The Toyota 2024 was by far the standout of the class, but not by much. And what I want to emphasize is how close the times are, and what that means is that the main factor for performance is going to be the driver and the driver's confidence in the car, or indeed the setup for the car. All of these times were driven on default setup. The Toyotas are still the standouts of the class. They dominate in 2 ways, one being the top speed and acceleration. Although the gap is reduced significantly with the 2 other new cars, they still have a tiny bit of an advantage, which I was able to see via the ghost feature in the game. However, it's reduced, and the biggest difference I feel now is in terms of drivability. The 2024 Toyota felt like it was on rails and very easy to drive. By far the fastest out of the box. By memory, the times were a 5:10 for the Toyota starting off with. For the Hyundai, it was a 5:14. I really struggled with that car at the start, and the Ford was a 5:12. So quite a bit of a difference, but obviously with the runs and me getting used to the cars, those times shrank considerably, but the Toyota's time, as I said previously, remained approximately the same, really. I couldn't extract any more performance out of it. So there's a small time gain for the updated Toyota. Now bear in mind, the gap to the Hyundai and the Toyota is less than a second. So it's literally one little lock-up, one missed apex, that sort of thing. So it's not going to make a huge difference unless you're at esports level. For the Ford, again, the most fun car to drive, but it can be very difficult to tune out that oversteer, I think. So again, a car to take for fun, maybe not for performance. I want to emphasize as a last point the enjoyability of these cars. I really felt like they were a step forward in that the previous Rally 1 cars were quite difficult to drive. A lot of people had their apprehensions and got out of their depth with them. These cars are very, very drivable and give you quite a bit of feedback if you're on a wheel in terms of what they're doing, and they're less snappy, I'd call it, in general. So you can really have a lot of fun with them, and I'd say they're probably going to be a lot more popular than they were in the past. So that's really positive, and once again, I cannot emphasize it enough, the times have come down from about a 5-second gap now to a 1.5 second gap, which is halving the distance, and that is brilliant because at that gap it kind of comes down to the driver and nothing else, which is exactly what I like to see in a car class. I'll have other videos coming out around the launch date for the update, so I hope you check them out and I hope you enjoy them. Feel free to check out the channel to see what has already been released and what is up and coming. Once again, hope you enjoyed. Thank you ever so much for watching, and thank you once again to EA for this opportunity. Bye bye for now.